I'm 39 now, but this all went down 14 years ago, back in 2011. I was 25 then, fresh out of university and scraping by as an English tutor in Sendai, a coastal city in Japan's Tohoku region. Life was simple. My tiny apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building, instant ramen for dinner most nights, and weekend hikes in the nearby hills to clear my head. Earthquakes weren't exactly rare. Japan sits on the ring of fire, so we'd get the occasional shake, nothing to lose sleep over. You'd feel a rumble, check the news, and move on. But that year, everything changed because of Miko. Miko was my cat, a scruffy black and white rescue I'd adopted from a shelter 2 years earlier. She was about 5 when I got her, already set in her ways. Lazy afternoons, napping in sunbeams, batting at dangling strings, and curling up on my lap during late-night lesson preps. She wasn't one of those hyper cats, more like a quiet companion who kept the loneliness at bay. I'd talk to her like she understood, venting about bad dates or stressful classes. In return, she'd purr and headbutt my hand. Cozy, right? That's how it started. The first weirdness hit in late February. It was a chilly evening, and I was home grading papers when Miko suddenly bolted from her spot on the windowsill. Her fur puffed up like she'd seen a ghost, and she started yowling. This deep, guttural meow that I'd never heard from her. Not her usual feed me chirp. This was urgent, almost pained. She paced the room, tail twitching, eyes wide and darting to the corners like something was crawling in the shadows. I laughed it off at first, thinking maybe a mouse had snuck in, or she was spooked by a car horn outside. "What's got you so worked up, girl?" I said, scooping her up. But she squirmed free, hid under the bed, and trembled there for hours. That night, around 2 a.m., a small tremor hit, magnitude 4.2. Nothing major, but enough to rattle the dishes in my sink. The building swayed gently, and I woke up gripping the sheets. Miko was already at my side, staring at me with those glowing eyes in the dark. Coincidence, I told myself. Cats are sensitive. Maybe she felt the vibrations early, but it planted a seed of unease. Over the next couple weeks, it escalated. Miko's episodes became more frequent. She'd vocalize excessively, meowing non-stop at the walls as if answering some invisible call. One day, she refused her food bowl entirely, just sat there trembling and shaking her head like she was trying to dislodge something from her ears. I'd check her for injuries, fleas, anything, but the vet said she was fine, maybe just stressed from the urban noise. Cats can be quirky, he shrugged, but I knew better. This wasn't her. Then came March 9th. I remember it vividly because it was a Wednesday, and I'd just finished a long day of tutoring high school kids cramming for exams. The cherry blossoms were starting to bud early that year, a tease of spring amid the lingering winter chill. I got home around 7 p.m., kicked off my shoes, and found Miko in full panic mode. She was restless, darting from room to room, hiding behind the couch, then escaping to the balcony where she'd press against the railing, staring out at the ocean horizon. Her fur stood on end, and she kept sticking unnaturally close to me, clawing at my legs, almost tripping me as I moved. It was like she was trying to herd me, warn me. "Miko, cut it out," I muttered, but my stomach twisted. The air felt heavy, charged, like before a storm. I tried distracting her with toys, but she ignored them, instead becoming aggressive, hissing at empty spaces, swatting at the air. That evening, as I sat watching TV, she jumped onto my lap and just stared, not the affectionate gaze. Her pupils were dilated, locked on mine like she was pleading. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why did it feel so human? Around 11:46 p.m., the ground lurched. It was the foreshock, a magnitude 7.3 quake off the coast. My apartment shook violently. Books toppled from shelves. The lights flickered. I grabbed Miko and ducked under the table, heart pounding as the building groaned. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, but felt eternal. When it stopped, emergency alerts blared on my phone. Earthquake warning, evacuate if near coast. Sendai wasn't hit too bad that time, but power outages rippled through the neighborhood. Miko calmed almost immediately after, curling up as if nothing happened. But me, I couldn't shake the timing. Had she known? The next day, March 10th, things normalized a bit. News reports buzzed about the quake. Minor damage, no tsunami, but experts warned of aftershocks. I called my parents in Tokyo. They were fine, just rattled. Miko seemed back to her old self, eating normally, no more yowling. I almost convinced myself it was all in my head. Maybe she was just sensitive to the low-frequency rumbles humans can't feel. Science has theories about animals detecting P waves or electromagnetic changes before quakes. I even looked it up online, reading about historical accounts. Dogs howling in ancient China, birds fleeing in Italy. Comforting, in a way. But deep down, the unease lingered. That night, as I tried to sleep, Miko started again. Subtler at first, no appetite, diarrhea in her litter box. Messy, unusual for her tidy habits. Then the vomiting, a hairball mixed with bile. She trembled under the bed, refusing to come out. I coaxed her with treats, but she just shook off and hid deeper. By morning, March 11th, she was a wreck, frightened, meowing incessantly, sticking to me like glue. I had the day off, so I stayed home, watching her pace the floorboards. The restlessness peaked around noon. She escaped to the balcony again, yowling at the sea. Her eyes, they looked haunted. I remember glancing at the clock, 2:46 p.m. Miko froze, fur bristling, and bolted inside, clawing at my pants leg, pulling me toward the door. "What is it now?" I snapped. But then the world exploded. The ground heaved like a living thing. Magnitude 9.0, the big one. My building swayed wildly. Cracks spiderwebbed the walls, furniture slid across the room. I dropped to the floor, covering my head as alarms wailed citywide. It was endless. Over 6 minutes of terror, the strongest quake Japan had ever recorded. Power cut out, and in the chaos I grabbed my emergency bag and Miko's carrier. Her earlier frenzy had me ready. I scooped her up and ran downstairs, joining neighbors fleeing to higher ground. The tsunami warning screamed. Waves up to 40 meters high, barreling toward the coast. Sendai was devastated. Floods swallowed cars, homes, entire neighborhoods. If not for Miko's insistence, I might have hesitated, stayed inside too long. We made it to an evacuation center on a hill, huddling with thousands as the waters raged below. Miko stayed pressed against me the whole time, her trembling finally easing as the aftershocks rolled in. In the days after, reports flooded in. Over 15,000 dead, nuclear meltdowns at Fukushima, a nation in mourning. But amid the horror, stories emerged. Dogs barking wildly, cows refusing to enter barns, birds vanishing from skies, and cats, so many like Miko. Surveys later confirmed it. Pet owners across Tohoku reported similar behaviors. Restlessness, hiding, vocalizing days or hours before. Scientists debated it, maybe infrasound, ion changes in the air. But to me, it was real. Miko had predicted it all. We survived, but the apartment was ruined. I moved back to Tokyo with my parents, taking Miko along. She lived another 5 years, normal mostly, but every minor tremor. She'd perk up, eyes locking on mine like a silent alarm. It comforted me and terrified me. What if she sensed something bigger coming? Miko passed in 2016, old age. I got a new cat last year, a kitten named Sora. She's sweet, playful, but sometimes, in the quiet nights, she stares at the walls, meowing softly. Japan still shakes occasionally. I watch her closely now. If she starts acting up, well, I keep my go bag by the door. You never know what's brewing beneath the surface, just like back in 2011, when a simple cat saw the nightmare coming. This happened in the summer of 2018, right after I'd moved into the cheapest apartment I could find in Portland, Oregon. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, rent-controlled building from the 1970s. The kind where the hallway always smells like old curry and wet carpet. I was broke, freshly single, and needed something alive in the place that didn't talk back. So I bought a fish tank. Nothing fancy. A 20-gallon long, second-hand off Craigslist for $40, plus gravel. A filter that sounded like a dying lawnmower. And 10 little neon tetras from the pet store on 82nd. I named the boldest one Captain because he always swam at the front like he was leading the squad. The rest were just numbers 1 through 9. I know, real creative. For the first month, everything was normal. I'd come home from my night shift job at the call center, kick off my shoes, and zone out watching them dart around under the blue LED. It was the only thing that quieted the breakup noise in my head. I even started talking to them the way lonely people do. "Rough day, Captain," I'd say while sprinkling flakes. He'd flare his tiny fins like he was answering. Then, at the end of July, I noticed the first face. It was maybe 2 a.m. Lights off except for the tank glow. I was half asleep on the couch when I saw it. All 10 tetras had lined up in a perfect vertical row. Noses pointed at the glass, staring straight at me. Their little bodies formed the shape of a human face. 2 fish for eyes, 1 for a nose. The rest making a downturned mouth. It wasn't random schooling behavior. It was too symmetrical, too deliberate. I blinked hard, sat up, and the second I moved, they scattered like I'd shocked the water. I told myself it was exhaustion. 12-hour shifts talking angry customers through router resets will make you see things. I even laughed about it the next morning. Pareidolia, right? The brain loves faces, but it kept happening. A week later, I woke up on the floor. I'd fallen asleep watching Netflix again, and the tank was doing it a second time. Same 10 fish, same eerie portrait, but the mouth was open this time, like it was screaming silently against the glass. I grabbed my phone and tried to film it. The instant the screen lit up, they broke formation. After that, I started leaving the camera rolling on a tripod every night, just in case. Nothing for days. Then, August 9th, the footage caught it. At 3:17 a.m., the tetras slowly drifted together and formed a face I actually recognized. My ex, Sarah. Same wide eyes, sad eyes, same slightly crooked mouth. The resemblance was uncanny. I watched the clip 20 times, heart hammering. It held the shape for 9 full seconds before collapsing. I posted the video to r/glitch_in_the_matrix that same night. Got a few cool but fake comments. A couple people saying it was string or magnets under the tank. I swore on everything it wasn't. Then a private message came from a deleted account. "Stop feeding them after midnight. They're learning you." I laughed it off as a troll, but I stopped the late-night feedings anyway. By mid-August, the faces were happening during the day. I'd be making coffee and glance over. Boom, a new one. Sometimes strangers, sometimes people I knew. My mum, my old high school bully. Once it was a child I didn't recognize. Cheeks sunken, eyes way too big. That one made me unplug the filter for an hour because I couldn't breathe. The fish themselves started looking wrong. Their colors got brighter, almost fluorescent, and their eyes seemed larger, blacker. Captain's red stripe turned the color of fresh blood. They stopped eating the flakes I dropped in. Instead, they'd hover at the surface, staring at me until I walked away, then devour every scrap in seconds. August 23rd. I came home from work at 6 a.m. and the tank was empty. Not a single fish. Water level perfect. Lid still clipped on. No bodies on the carpet. just 10 tiny wet prints on the inside of the glass, perfect ovals where their mouths had pressed, arranged in 2 curved lines. A smile. I freaked out, obviously. Tore the apartment apart, checked the filter intake, the overflow box, behind the dresser. Nothing. Posted an update online asking if neons can jump 10 inches straight up and vanish. Someone replied with a link to an old No Sleep story from 2016. Almost the exact same thing. Different city, same tank size, same 10 fish forming faces until one morning they were just gone. The poster claimed he found one fish weeks later, dried and flattened, stuck to the ceiling above the tank like it had been staring at. He moved out the next day and never kept pets again. I should have taken the hint. 2 nights later, I woke up at 3:33 a.m. with that pressure on your chest, like the room's holding its breath. The tank light was on by itself. I never leave it on overnight. All 10 tetras were back, pressed flat against the front glass in a tight grid. Their bodies spelled words. First it was my full name, first and last, perfect block letters made of tiny fish bodies. Then the letters dissolved and reformed into a single sentence. We see you when you sleep. I yanked the plug from the wall. The light died, but in the dark, I could still see their faint glow, like they were bioluminescent now. I slept on the couch with every light in the apartment on and a knife under the pillow. Pathetic, I know. The next morning, the tank was bone dry. No leak, no puddle, no damp ring on the table. 20 gallons of water, gone. Gravel bone dry. And the fish, perfectly alive, flopping on the glass bottom, mouths opening and closing in unison. I screamed, threw a towel over the tank, and called in sick to work. Spent the day researching exorcisms for fish. Yes, that's a real Google search I have in my history. That night, I did the only thing I could think of. I carried the entire tank, fish still flopping, down 3 flights of stairs and out to the apartment dumpster. I didn't have a car, so I just left it there, lid off under the sodium light, walked away without looking back. I crashed at a friend's place for a week. When I finally returned, the tank was sitting in front of my door again, clean, dry, empty. A single neon tetra lay on the hallway carpet outside my apartment, rigid and paper thin, eyes still black and huge. I moved out the same day. New city, new apartment, no pets. Sometimes, late at night, I'll be scrolling on my phone and the screen will flicker just for a frame. And I swear 10 tiny faces look right back at me from inside the glass. Then it's gone. I haven't been able to look at an aquarium since 2018. Pet store aisles, sushi menus with fish tanks behind the counter, even those little beta cups at Walmart. I feel them watching. And every so often I get a Reddit notification. Someone new has posted almost the exact same story. Same tank size, same 10 neon tetras, same faces. They're still looking for new water, I think, and new eyes to stare through. I never believed in ghosts until my dog started barking at things that weren't there. Not playful yips or "there's a squirrel" barks. Deep, guttural, terrified warnings that rattled the windows and made the hair on my arms stand up. The kind of bark that says, whatever's in this room is going to kill us both. My name's Lauren. This happened 5 years ago, right after I turned 27. I just inherited my grandmother's house in a sleepy little town outside Asheville, North Carolina. 2-story craftsman, wraparound porch, the whole postcard thing. Grandma Ruth passed in her sleep at 92, and since I was the only grandchild who ever visited, the deed came to me. I was drowning in credit card debt and a soul-crushing marketing job in Charlotte, so I quit, packed my car, and moved in with me came Riley. Riley was a 90-pound German Shepherd mix I'd rescued 3 years earlier. Big, dopey, protective in the best way. He slept at the foot of my bed every night, followed me room to room, and never once growled at a vacuum cleaner or delivery guy. Total softy. That's why, when he lost his mind the first night in the new house, I knew something was wrong. We pulled up around dusk, October, leaves turning blood red, mountain air so crisp it hurt your lungs. I carried the first box inside, Riley trotting ahead, tail wagging, sniffing every new smell a gift. Then he crossed the threshold, froze, and the wag stopped dead. Ears forward, hackles up, staring into the empty living room corner like a serial killer was standing there. A low growl started in his chest, grew into that nightmare bark. I dropped the box. Rye, easy. It's just a house. He didn't even blink at me, just kept barking at the corner until his voice cracked. I walked over, waved my arms in the empty space. Nothing. Dust motes, a cobweb, baseboard heater. He finally backed up, pressed against my legs, still rumbling. I laughed it off as new place nerves and gave him a treat. He wouldn't take it. That night I slept terribly. Around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of claws scrambling on hardwood. Riley was in the hallway outside my bedroom, facing the top of the stairs, barking so hard his front paws left the floor with every explosion of sound. I stumbled out, flipped on the light. Empty hallway, empty stairs, but the air felt thick, like walking through cold soup. Riley refused to come back to bed. He planted himself at the threshold and growled until sunrise. The next few days were a pattern. He'd be fine outside, happy, normal dog. The second we stepped inside, he'd pick a new corner and lose it. Kitchen corner by the fridge, upstairs hallway by the attic pull down, the corner of the basement where Grandma kept her canning jars. Always corners, always empty. I started timing it. He'd bark for exactly 7 minutes, then suddenly stop, shake himself like he was wet, and act like nothing happened. I called the vet. He's never done this before. New environment stress, she said. Give it a week. It didn't get better. It got precise. One evening, I was on a Zoom call in the dining room when Riley went off in the living room again. I muted myself, peeked around the doorway. He was staring at the same corner as the first night. But this time, he wasn't just barking. He was doing that shepherd herding crouch, circling something I couldn't see, nipping at the air like he was trying to drive it back. I ended the call early, grabbed my phone, and started recording. You can still find the clip if you dig deep enough on my old TikTok. 43 seconds of my dog snarling at literally nothing. Then he suddenly yelps, tucks his tail, and bolts to me shaking so hard his teeth chattered. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch with every light on, Riley glued to my side, when I heard it. A soft child's giggle from upstairs, clear as day. Riley's head snapped toward the ceiling, and the barking started again, worse than ever. I grabbed a flashlight, and we crept up together. The giggle floated down the hallway, coming from Grandma's old sewing room. Door was cracked open. I pushed it with my foot. Empty. Moonlight through the window. Rocking chair slowly rocking by itself. Riley refused to cross the threshold. He planted all 4 paws, barked until he gagged, then dragged me backward by my sleeve like he was saving me from a burning building. I slammed the door and didn't sleep again for 2 days. The breaking point came a week later. I'd started sleeping with the lights on and a baseball bat. Riley had stopped eating. He'd lost weight, ribs showing, eyes bloodshot from exhaustion. Around 2 a.m. I woke to silence, no barking, no whining. That scared me more than the noise. I found him in the living room, sitting perfectly still, staring at that original corner. But this time, he wasn't growling. His tail thumped once, twice, like someone he loved had just walked in. Then he walked straight into the corner, nose first, and lay down facing the wall, curled up like he does when he's about to nap, except his eyes stayed open, reflecting the lamplight. I called his name. He didn't twitch. I crawled over, touched his side. He was burning hot, panting shallow. When I tried to pull him away, he snarled at me, first time in his life, and went right back to staring at the blank wall, tail still thumping. I called an emergency vet. While I waited for the callback, I sat on the floor, crying and Googling like a madwoman. That's when I found the article buried in the local paper's 1974 archives. A 5-year-old boy had gone missing from this exact house. Grandma Ruth's only child, my uncle I never knew existed because no one ever spoke of him, had wandered off during a family party and was never found. Searchers said the last place anyone saw him was playing in the living room corner with an imaginary friend. They found one of his little shoes wedged behind the baseboard heater. Case went cold. I looked at Riley. He was still staring, tail still thumping, but slower now. His breathing had gone ragged. The vet called back, told me to bring him in immediately. I scooped him up, 90 pounds of dead weight, and carried him to the car. He didn't fight, just kept his head turned toward the house the whole time, like he was watching someone wave goodbye from the porch. The vet ran every test. Heartworm, poisoning, brain tumor. Nothing. Blood work perfect. They kept him overnight for observation. At 6:14 a.m., they called. Riley had passed peacefully in his sleep, curled up exactly the way he'd been in that corner. I buried him in the backyard under the maple tree. The next morning, I put the house on the market. Didn't even spend another night. 2 weeks later, the realtor texted me a photo from the final walkthrough. The living room corner, the one Riley obsessed over, now had a perfect paw print in the dust on the hardwood. One single print, deep, like a big dog had stood there a long time. Next to it, pressed into the dust like a child's sneaker, was the tiny outline of a child's shoe. I still get Christmas cards from the new owners. They have a golden retriever puppy. They say he's the happiest dog in the world, except sometimes, for exactly 7 minutes, he sits in that corner and wags his tail at the wall like he's greeting an old friend. I never told them why I sold the house so cheap. Some corners, once a good dog marks them as taken, stay taken.